Each week at this time as we explore places to go and things to do. Got a treat for you today, a big treat. If you're a fan of Al Hirschfeld, who does the wonderful, wonderful theatrical drawings that appear in the New York Times, then you're going to love what we're talking about today, because there's a great exhibit now on at the Katonah Museum, and it's all about Al Hirschfeld. And we're delighted and honored to have today Sally Frank, who is one of the co-project directors at the Katonah Museum. Sally, we've got a lot to talk about and a lot to show on Al Hirschfeld today. And anybody who is interested in the theater and anybody who sees the Times on Sundays knows the wonderful work that he does. How do you sum it up? What is the genius of Al Hirschfeld?
Well, he has a way of using the line and expressing things like no one else has really captured the same way. He can make a line sing and dance and jump and laugh and cry. He's a real master caricaturist, but he's also a keen observer of the human experience.
And we can get into some of them, how he happens to capture those wonderful, wonderful things that he does. This exhibit, we just want to make sure that everybody knows it's going to be there for quite a while. It's through April.
It's running through April 5th.
April 5th
Yes.
at the wonderful Katonah Museum. And
Yes.
We'll talk about how to get there and the hours and all of that later on. Why don't we start by, I think, showing the catalog, the front of the catalog, because on the cover is this great self-portrait. There's several of them.
It's a wonderful drawing. Actually, this catalog is very special because it is currently the only work in print on Al Hirschfeld's work. It is the only one, and may someday be a collector's item.
Really?
So, yes, we've been selling them like crazy.
But you know, it's interesting that you say that, because I've seen a lot of his work, but I really did not see them in this form. This is an exceptional catalog. And in this cover, it's a kind of a catalog within a catalog. There are a lot of illustrations of him at work and a lot of other things into. But let's start at the beginning. Let's get it all out of the way first so everybody will be happy. What about Nina?
Nina, we're going straight to Nina. Well, Nina was Nina is, of course, Al Hirschfeld's daughter, who was born in 1945, and it was a very special time for him, and he thought that he would announce it to the world in the back of a drawing. And so you'll see in...
Yeah, you brought along, actually. I hadn't seen this before and didn't notice it when I saw the exhibit. But here, right here in this little drawing, is the original Nina drawing.
Right. He creates the poster in the background of the drawing on the top right corner that says Nina the Wonder Child. And he has a drawing of a little baby reading a book. And that was his way of announcing to the world. It's very typical of his sense of humor. And it began something that he calls a national insanity. He started doing this, and he sort of had fun with it for a while.
But here Nina's name is actually in here, whereas after this, of course...
He hides it.
He hides it in the hair and in the clothing, right?
That's right. That's right.
And what's this national insanity you're talking about?
Well, he was hiding it and having a good time with it, and then he tried to stop doing it. He sort of thought, okay, enough of that, I've done that. And he was barraged by mail, barraged by letters, and he said, well, it's easier for me to put them in than to answer all the letters. So he started putting them in again.
There was one incident that's covered in there. Once he put in a friend of Nina's name, and what happened? He
thought it would be funny to put in a friend of Nina's, and he got a lot of letters congratulating him on the birth of his second child. So he had to stop that. No more playing around with other people's names.
and one more Nina story, and I'm going to find it there, and that is which drawing has the most Ninas?
The Whoopi Goldberg drawing.
And I know it's in the catalog, and we're going to show it in a minute.
And it has 40 Ninas. There you are. You got it.
It's really surprising that that he has enough space to put 40 of them in there.
It really is fun.
And I wouldn't believe it, except that down in the corner with his signature is the number 40.
Right. He started doing that in 1960 because people said, we want to know how many we're looking for. So he when there were more than one Nina, he put the number.
I have to admit that I, for years, have been looking at them and finding them and counting. I know where to look now, by the way. It gets after a while that you can do that. Yeah. So let's talk now about Al Hirschfeld. Let's talk about how it all happened and where did it come from and how did he start? How did he get into this whole thing? He wasn't always a caricaturist.
No, he wasn't. He was born in 1903 in St. Louis, Missouri. And he had a friend in St. Louis who noticed that he was quite an artist for a child. And he started taking him on excursions to go and do drawings of landscapes and buildings and things. And this man went to his mother, who was really the head of the household, and said, you really need to take this boy to New York. He doesn't have, this talent is so incredible, and he doesn't have a future here, but you've got to get him to New York. So she packed up the family, and when he was 14, they moved to New York. And he started studying at the National Academy of Art and the Art Students League, studying the academics, the things that the schools, that he explains that the schools could teach him. He thought he was going to be a sculptor. That was the area that he really was drawn to initially. Yeah. Then he kind of decided...
While you're talking, I'm going to look and see if I can illustration of his sculpture.
Of the sculpture, I think you'll find a bust of Abraham Lincoln. He finally concluded that sculpture really wasn't his thing, that sculpture was simply a drawing you could trip over in the dark. And so he decided to move away from sculpture and really got more interested.
Well, I'm glad he did that. I'm certainly glad. I couldn't
find
him.
I think we all
are. But he didn't. I mean, he's been doing remarkably. This year is his 70th year with the New York Times.
70th year of working with the New York Times, yes.
1928. Yeah. But he wasn't always doing theater drawings. He started in the movies.
No, he started working, that's right, for the movie studios, had their advertising and media
posters.
Offices.
He did a lot of posters.
They were all in New York City. So he did the posters, exactly, and all of the advertising, the playbills and things like that, advertisement for the movies in the New York studios.
Selznick and MGM.
Selznick was where he began, and he had there's a funny story where he got his first job. And he used to play on a baseball team. He was a very good baseball player and thought maybe there was a future there, too. And a friend of his on the team, another friend was Lou Gehrig, by the way, not the significant one in this case, but a friend of his was doing work for Goldwyn. And sort of thought, well, maybe you should go and talk to them at some point. So he kept submitting drawings to Goldwyn, and finally they said, okay, great. And so he started doing some work for them, and then he went on to do work for Selznick, and eventually became the art director for Selznick, and sort of set up on a independent contractor basis, set up the art studio for Selznick. And then there was a big problem there because Selznick went bankrupt, and he ended up with all the debt on him for his art studio. So once he finally paid off the debt, he worked for many other studios in order to pay off these debts. And then when he finally was able to pay off the debt, his uncle was so proud of him for taking the responsibility that he said, how would you like to go to Paris to paint?
Where all artists learn.
Right, especially in those days. And he gave him $500.
So his work wasn't always this line.
No, and he pursued sculpture, he pursued painting, and he really went to Paris to try to loosen up. That was really
loosen up. But he had a lot of influences. And John Held was
John Held was a very big the flapper era. Yes, he was very influenced by John Held, and Miguel Covarrubias was also the Mexican caricaturist
who he knew,
and actually they got a studio together, and he produced lithographs when he was working in that studio.
I'm going to show some more so that anyone who, if there's anyone in this world who is not familiar with his work, his are very, very, to me, very impressive. This is, of course, Zero Mistel.
Right, in Rhinoceros.
Rhinoceros with Eli Wallach. right?
Right.
And he said a lot about he liked certain people because they lent themselves so much for caricature.
Like the glandular actors.
The glandular actors.
The glandular actors. The ones that were larger than life.
You know, I saw across the street from Lincoln Center the other day, an actor walked into a restaurant and nobody noticed him. I did. But General Mostel couldn't walk into a restaurant without everybody know exactly who he was. And this was a person that I saw who was on television and at Lincoln Center and so on. And Greg Nelson, who's in the coach and is opening up in Lincoln Center. Nobody noticed him but me. And but you never would have a problem with recognizing people like him or Bert Lahr, who he also said was so distinctive in the way he looked.
Right.
It's really amazing that he could capture. How did he capture it? What was the secret of how he captured?
Well, I think he really, he looked for the individuals. I mean, first of all, you have to remember that theater. He was in love with theater, fell in love with it for the first time. He went to the theater when he was 14 with his mother. But theater is character on stage. That is, it is the portrayal of character. So so as a caricaturist, he's looking at all those things that give the actor the tools to perform character. So he's looking at the posture, he's looking at the carriage of the head, he's looking at the unique qualities of the eyes and the mouth. So it was a perfect marriage between his love of theater and caricaturism.
I particularly noted this drawing. First of all, the simplicity of line and the sweep, it's so graceful.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Now, this is Ella Fitzgerald and done in 1992, I believe. And he said that really his more recent work, you'll see these simpler lines, even more fluid, and he's gotten away from really being as literal with the figure. And he says that takes him longer than the more complicated images where he's loading up the page with things. You can kind of fill in a spot that needs something. This is what he's found takes him the most work, but it's what he's the most interested in, the purest line. He says he's always in pursuit of the most perfect line.
In the exhibit, you do include some of his notebooks and his pencil sketches, which he does, and then of course, when he goes to ink,
it's very exciting to see what goes into these drawings. Many sketches. Many of them go through, anywhere from 2 to maybe a dozen sketches to come up with the end result. And he does do his first preliminary work in pencil, on paper, on illustration board. And he works it out very carefully before he goes in and puts down the ink.
It's interesting to me that he doesn't sketch when he's in his favorite spot in the theater, third row on the aisle, in rehearsal or on the road beforehand. He doesn't sketch, does he?
Well, no, he does. What he started doing was taking a little notebook and putting it in his pocket, a very small one, so that he wouldn't be distracting to the actors. And he would make little notations, little eyes, and then he'd write a little notation to it to help him to go back to it later and fill that out. Or he might do a little squiggle for hair and write scrambled eggs, and then, which we have as one of the sketchbooks that we have.
Yeah, the what do you call them? The cards that at each of in the exhibit. What do you call the cards that explain the things? The
signage.
The signage. Very, very good. Very clear. A lot of it is reproduced in this wonderful catalog, which I thought was very good. So you not only see it there, but you take it home with you, and I thought that was a very good idea.
That's really true. There's so many wonderful stories. I mean, Hirschfeld has a wonderful, marvelous sense of humor, even at 95, almost 95.
95 this year.
95 this year, and he really has a lot. He has a wonderful humor about him and about his work. And the stories many of them are on the walls, and they're a lot of fun to take your time and see. Absolutely.
I want to get into how to see the exhibit and how it was put together, but first I do want to remind our viewers that we're talking today about the exhibit at the Katonah Museum of the work of Al Hirschfeld, the wonderful, wonderful caricaturist whose work appears in the New York Times. And my guest today is Sally Frank, who is the co-project director. How does a project like this start, and what does a project director do?
Well, they can start in many different ways. The Katonah Museum is a non-collecting museum, which gives us the opportunity to mount 4 to 6 exhibitions a year. And sometimes we'll borrow from all of the major museums and private collections around the world. This exhibition was conceived by my co-project director, Yvonne Pollack, who thought, I don't think this has been done before. And in fact, a retrospective of Al Hirschfeld's work has never been done before. So it seemed like a wonderful opportunity. He's celebrating his 95th birthday. He's celebrating his 70th anniversary with the New York Times. So it just seemed like a golden opportunity. And through the National Portrait Gallery, Wendy Rick Reeves gave us the name of our curator, Mr. Leopold, and so we contacted him, and he has been his archivist for the last, I guess, 8 years. And so David Leopold worked with us very closely in putting this whole thing together.
It's a tremendous assembly job, isn't it? And of course, Al Hirschfeld was very cooperative in all of this.
Oh, he was. He was really wonderful to work with, and we went to his studio. And actually, David had an incredible opportunity to go through his studio and literally find so many of the works in this exhibition have never been seen before, and there were found in boxes and on shelves and in drawers and pulled out and resurrected. And Al Hirschfeld had some very amusing comments to make over things that he hadn't seen in decades. So I think David had a good time putting it together.
Works in a very unique setting, which you have replicated at the museum.
Right.
Talk about that.
He works in a barber chair. He sits in a barber chair.
A real barber chair.
An old-fashioned barber chair.
And
we have one that's almost identical to the one that he uses.
It says that it's great because it's so flexible. You could turn it and lean back in it and twist in it and raise it and do anything you want with it. It makes a lot of sense. Why didn't I think of that?
And actually, the original barber chair that he used for many, many years is now in the collection of the Smithsonian.
Is it?
So he got a new one, and then this one is one very similar to the one that he's using now.
He's still going strong at 95,
yes,
and it's amazing he does that. And little Nina, of course, is not little Nina anymore.
No, she's not. She's not. But he works very regularly, and he's very enthusiastic about his work. I mean, he really still loves an assignment. He wants those assignments, looks forward to them. He sits down and spends hours, literally hours a day working.
When he started, he wasn't exclusively New York Times. He worked for the New York Herald Tribune.
That's right. His first published newspaper piece was in the New York Herald.
And then he did some book illustrations with his friend S.J. Perelman.
Yes, he did. Well, actually, the first thing he did with S.J. Perelman was he put together, the two of them worked on a musical comedy together called Sweet By and By in 1945. And the show opened in Philadelphia, and as he explains it closed like the slam of a mousetrap behind the curtain fall. So it was a complete disaster. Everything that could have gone wrong in that production went wrong. Two of the actors ended up in mental institution, one in the hospital. It was a fiasco. So they decided they better get out of town. That was, as he puts it.
They may be out of show business too.
So they decided to do this book together, which was then later titled Westward Ha. And they traveled around the world working on with stories and drawings, and it's a hilarious account of their travels, and it was a tremendous success. And it was with those royalties that Mr. Hirschfeld was able to buy the townhouse that he still lives in today in New York.
Isn't that great? We'd really be doing a disservice to our viewers if we weren't showing more of the illustration.
Yes.
And this one I love, maybe because I love the show. This is Richard Kiley in Man of La Mancha, which I find to be just great. Now, this has
wonderful.
A lot of detail in that. So he's not just a simple line person. He does a lot, and some of the other things.
He uses pattern a lot.
Yes.
To really accentuate aspects of the character.
And because of the newspaper reproduction, a lot of black is very, very strong for him. Of course, what we're showing today is only a small sampling of the many, many. How many do you have?
It's around 100 works.
That many?
Yeah.
And what I like about the Katonah Museum is that every time I go there for another exhibit, it looks different.
We've really done a major transformation on this one.
Yeah, the previous exhibit on the architecture, toys, building blocks was all showcases.
Yes, and this time we have a new designer to the museum. Josh Dudley has done a beautiful installation, and it really does create a whole new environment. We have sort of one gallery is a backstage atmosphere, and the other gallery is an onstage atmosphere. And it shows the background. The exhibition really goes through the background of his career and his life, his travels in Bali and Russia, and drawings for the Russian theater, and drawings from kabuki drama, and his lithographs, and he did a book called Harlem as Seen by Hirschfeld, which was a wonderful book of illustrations of lithographs of his scenes of Harlem.
There's more to Al Hirschfeld than his
There's a lot more.
And I think I learned that. I did not realize that he had worked in so many different, and so many...
he was quite a traveler. He really was quite a traveler.
Let's talk a little bit about, when you mentioned traveling, how people get to the Katonah Museum. I know it's easy enough to get to, certainly from all parts of Westchester. It's just south of Route 35. Just south of
Route 35, off of Route 684. And also, you can always call the phone number.
Which we should give now.
Yeah, 232-9555. Of course, that's 914 area code. And you will get directions from wherever you need them.
We'll put that telephone number up on the closing credits if someone didn't write it down. And the hours, let's talk about the docents, which I always find interesting there.
Well, we have the hours of the museum are 1 to 5, Tuesday through Friday, Saturday from 10 to 5, and Sunday from 1 to 5 again. And then we have docent tours, as you mentioned, at 2:30 in the afternoon, and we do, of course, a lot of school groups that come in during the week.
And you have a children's room, too.
Yes, we do. We have a wonderful learning center. So come and bring your children, because there's plenty for everyone.
And a great gift shop, and some of my best dollars reside there. I always find such interesting things there, and I don't know how they get their things that I've never seen anywhere else. Amaze me, and so
they really try to customize the merchandise in the gift shop to the exhibition that's going on. Too.
Let's show another one. This one is Music Man.
Yes. Now, this was in 1957, not long after, or a few years after, his exclusive arrangement with the New York Times. He worked for so many newspapers in New York that at one point, the editors of the Times said, all these newspapers in the theater sections look the same. So they said, we want Al Hirschfeld for us. And so in 1943, he on a handshake, he agreed to be exclusive for the New York Times. And it was very funny because somewhere in the 1960s, the New York Times actually wanted it in writing. And he was sort of appalled that since 1928 he'd been doing all these drawings, and then, okay, you want it in writing, I'll give it to you in writing. So he did, but it was very amusing.
You know, I've been showing these illustrations that you brought along, but I didn't open up the book so that the people could really see. Some of the ones I've shown are in there. But this is a
wonderful drawing.
Yes.
This really shows the skillful use of line, and as he's creating line out of dots, and he gives you this wonderful sense of being in the shower, out of the shower, and really just using dots.
In South Pacific, and that's
Betsy Palmer doing
that.
Right.
And the effect is very interesting, and it's different, and he's been different in so many things that he does. It's great technique for doing that. So he's not a stick in the mud who just stays where he is and does the same thing.
No, and I don't know if you can find two examples of him using the same thing for eyes in the whole exhibition.
That's something to
Everyone's eyes are different, and he has such an incredible inventory. It's almost as though he's created a language with line, and he's been able to create create different ways of saying expressions and feelings and emotions through line. It's really a language all its own.
Talk about line. I particularly noted the most recent one that's shown is the Frank Langella from Cyrano, which
is very recent.
Very recent, and
very
unfortunately not very successful, as Frank Langella has admitted.
Right.
But the use of the single line in that, I think, is remarkable.
It's extraordinary.
It kind of floats out there, and it says so much.
Right.
So simply.
Yeah, it really does. And it's interesting, you mentioned that it wasn't particularly successful, and he tends to do his drawings before the shows have been reviewed, because he doesn't want to be influenced by the reviews.
That's right. So he does it in rehearsal.
So he can really interpret it the way.
Or in rehearsal to do that. The exhibit itself, putting it together, is it too much that you have to discriminate and say, well, we're not going to use...
it's not too much, but in this case... I don't mean that.
Have you got so much to choose from that it's hard to discard?
Well, with Hirschfeld, he's produced so much material, but David really wanted to be able to sort of tell the story of his life, the background, and show the evolution of his style. And so he really just wanted to pick the very best of those to illustrate those two things.
So he was making decisions along with you.
Absolutely. David was the one that made all the decisions about what's exhibited.
Has Al Hirschfeld been up to see it?
Yes, he has. He was at the opening.
He was at the opening.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Thrilling,
delighted.
Thrilling to see him.
It was. He's just a wonderful man. It's sort of incredible after the years and years of work and the people that he's drawn, and he's very nonplussed by the whole thing. It's sort of like, isn't this nice?
I'm impressed, and I'm also impressed by the fact that, believe it or not, we've run out of time, and it's been so great for you to come here and share with us the wonders of Al Hirschfeld at the Katonah Museum. I thank you very, very much.
It's been a pleasure.
The Katonah Museum, it's a great exhibit. It's always a great place, and I've talked about their exhibits over a long period of time. This is one of their greatest. Al Hirschfeld of the Katonah Museum. Go see it. I'm Norman Liss. The name of this program is The Way to Go. And until next time, enjoy yourself.